can I jump in on something? I don't know how much of this we'll do because it was longer than is necessary, but Elon Musk, and I like, he's basically disappeared. By the way, hit the like, share the show, etc., etc. It's Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I'm Hal Sparks, and I will be Hal Sparksing the rest of the evening. I want to welcome the trolls. I have to say, and CSL, you might notice this. We had more responses from the troll bots when we did that Benny Johnson clip, where he was just kind of flailing about the Epstein stuff, and it was very body. It was very bot-like. It was very, like, totally bottish. You know what I mean? And it was, it was absolute troll bait. But they weren't, you could tell that they're, like, paid for, I don't know, like, it looked like they thought it was a real clip of his and went to watch it and went, ah, damn. And then they just had to say something. And because that's part of their job, is just, I have to write a sentence to let them know I was at the page, even if it's not his page, right? I feel like we accidentally herded some bots into my comment section. So thanks, troll bots. You helped us out in the algorithm, and it's amazing you dipshits still haven't figured out that the algorithm does not care about what you think or say about the show at all. It does not care. As long as you're writing something, my like, what is it, clicks through or whatever that goes to the, that tells them how much to charge for ads goes up. Thanks to you, trolls and maggots, it goes up. And when you say stuff, and especially when you come in and you get all mad, so don't let me, sometimes I say this early in the show and then they don't write anything because they've figured it out, and which proves they can learn, which means they aren't bots, so they're just morons. But is that working? Am I leading them into, are they gonna get upset and start typing shit? Probably. Okay, so we skull fuck bots around here. It's a lot of fun. And the trolls, like, I guess they just haven't figured it out. So anyways, you guys are awesome. Let's go. I want to show you this real quick because you don't need to see much of it to see where it's going. Okay. So Elon Musk, was at this, appeared via, Starlink, at this Qatari business venture thing that Trump went to. I guess he had other meetings with human traffickers or some shit. And they asked him some questions about South Africa bent the law about white ownership of things to allow Starlink in there. And so he got all mad about that. But the weird part is he got really adversarial at the woman asking the fucking question. Also, he's using, all right. I understand I've got a little green screen halo on my thing because I'm fucking around here. I'm just putting my show on the way I want to put it on for fun. And I don't really care if it's firing on all cylinders or something. And I don't necessarily want people out in the world that aren't, friendlies to know where the windows and doors are in my house. So I use a green screen because my actual living environment in terms of streaming falls under the envelope of none of your fucking business, which is fine, okay? And instead of putting up like a fake bookshelf full of books I don't read, even though I do have a bookshelf that has a lot of books that I do read, but they're also none of your fucking business, I guess. Whatever, no, I'm just kidding. Anyways, I put this up because it's more fun for me. It's something I like to play around. I enjoy it. Anyways, point being, I can do this, and they're still using this fucking Zoom cutout shit with the background remover. Let me understand this. You are building some sort of douchey supercomputer that is belching smoke all over fucking Memphis. That's supposed to be this giant grok brain. That's the cutting edge of shit or whatever. And you're still using a fucking Zoom green screen substitute. What the fuck? What is that? How does this make? It doesn't make sense to me. It looks like shit. It looks like shit. And you're supposed to be super rich and have all this. I don't get it. Dude, can you imagine? Look, I made this little set and everything in it using like image generation, and it took me multiple iterations. And then I cut out the little window here, and I put in, like, I used to have the chat roll by, but it was too small, so it didn't really show up. So I put a graphic in there, and then we have our little thing show up. Thank you, Yvonne. And then we got our little tip jar over here, and my green screen won't even go this far. Like this, I run out of space. If I want to point this way, I have to like turn my body to get in the frame. Because if I go like this, I run out. Okay, because that's the size of the space I'm working with. Okay, if I had like I was about to say $1 million, but not even that. Like 100K. Do you understand the stupid fucking cool studio thing I would not only have here, but on like the road with me? You know what I mean? Like a kit that I would just go, hey, pop, foop, like one of those pop tents that you just throw and it goes jaboom. Like it would be fucking great. And it wouldn't take much. That's the thing. Like I literally went to $1 million, but we all know like my setup here, 2 of these would probably cost, I don't know, all in, if I had a travel version of it, 15 grand or something like that. And I could have 3 of them here in an office, one on the plane. Like, if you're that rich, what the fuck is going on? What's the point? What's the point of being that rich if your stuff still looks like shit? And it's not like you're being retro. It'd be one thing if he's like, we use Grok to cut me out, but I'm in, like, my fucking background is, I don't know, like it looks like Pac-Man. It looks like I'm sitting in Pac-Man as it walks by, and it's 8-bit, and who cares? At least you'd be doing it on purpose. Sorry, this boggles my fucking mind. I don't get it. Because I would think, it's like Trump eating McDonald's. I don't fucking get it. I have to get some Glenn Beck money? Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. Unlike him, though, I won't use it to stuff my fat ass with Sonic burgers until I'm, like, I need emergency nasal surgery because my breathing sounds like the air being let out of a inflatable horse. Can you do something about Glenn's mic when he's not talking? Jesus Christ. I've never, like, him and RFK Jr., it sounds like they have to wear a CPAP mask during the day. Anyways, I'm never going to get it. 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 Never going to. I don't get it. I don't get why the fuck you would have all those resources and not use them. And if it's like, well, you know, rich people, they don't care about that kind of stuff. Well, then they don't care about being rich either. So give it all away. I would give it all away. Give it all away. Give it away. Man, he spends it on ketamine. I don't even think ketamine's that expensive. I mean, it is expensive, I guess, right? Because I think we all got a crash course in ketamine after Matt Perry died, right? So, anyways, let's check this out. I'll get over it at some point. No, I won't.
I was in Silicon Valley yesterday morning. I was in LA yesterday evening. I'm in Austin right now. I'll be in DC tomorrow. I'll be there, having dinner with the president tomorrow night, I believe. And then...
La-di-da. So he was in Silicon Valley. He was in LA. He went to Austin, and he's going to DC. And nowhere along the way could he find some better way of broadcasting a fucking Zoom call.
Whole bunch of cabinet secretary meetings, and then back to Silicon Valley on Thursday night.
But I mean, the balance of your time, is it, well, clearly it's a lot, but is it still the case, as you said a while ago, that it's about 1 to 2 days a week on your government work?
Yeah, that's correct.
And what does that mean for your corporate life? Because if we start with Tesla, the company has suffered in recent months what you've called blowback. So what is your plan?
By the way, I would call it blowout because it's not, there's no back to it. It's like he got a flat doing 100 miles an hour and lost control of the fucking thing. By the way, and that's not fair either, because he's arguably have to be leaning out the window and stabbing his own tire.
Turning that around, the declining sales.
She's echoing because it's the room. They're using the audio. He's on the screen and she's speaking in the space. And so to hear him, because again, what the fuck? They can't afford better audio in this certain shit. Nothing's gonna stop me from doing this. I know. I realize I'm the only person fixated on this. I get it. No one else cares, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know? You have any fucking idea how much money these assholes have? You can't, and you don't have the AI that skims out the room noise. You dumbass. It's so aggravating.
Picture, and by what stage?
And the clip is way louder. It doesn't look that much louder, but I'll bring it down a little bit. Right?
Do you think you're going to be able to turn it around?
Oh, it's already turned around.
It has not turned around. No. Oh, it's already turned around. Yeah, we're totally around. That whole thing where we've started taking Cybertrucks and trade-ins when we said we wouldn't, that's all part of turning around.
Give me some evidence for that. I've just been looking at the sales figures for Europe in April, which show very significant declines in the big market.
You know what? Okay. Let me explain something. These assholes, Trump particularly, and Musk and the people surrounding both of them, quite frankly, their whole crowds, don't give a shit if you and I say that. But this is a woman who's interviewing on behalf of, like, the Qataris and all these fucking rich assholes, right? Oh, so good. But he ends up still treating her like she's a rando reporter who just walked up to him on the street with a fucking iPhone.
Europe is our weakest market. We're strong everywhere else.
Yeah, everywhere else they buy a lot of electric cars, which besides Europe is, oh shit.
No, our sales are...
Sorry, there should be some room noise on this, I would think. Something like, you know what I mean?
Doing well at this point. We don't anticipate any meaningful sales shortfall, and obviously the stock market recognizes that, since we're now back over $1 trillion in market cap. So clearly the market is aware of the situation. So it's already turned around.
But sales still down compared to this time last year.
In Europe.
In Europe.
And in the US and in Canada. And where else and China. Where else do you sell fucking cars? They're up in the let me guess. Statistically, you motherfucker. Statistically, they're up in places where you sold 2 cars last year and you sold 6 cars this year. So that market is fucking gangbusters. But the place where you sold 100,000 cars is down 71%. But that's just one market.
Okay, and
yes, but that's true of all manufacturers.
Nope.
There's no exceptions.
Does that mean that you're not going to be able? Does that mean
European market is quite weak?
Okay, but you would acknowledge, wouldn't you, that what you are facing? Okay, let's just take it as Europe. What you are facing is
cup of ketamine. Good to the last drop.
Significant problem. This Tesla was an incredibly aspirational.
Also, is he like trying to show off? Like, is this one of those douchey things where he's trying to show his mug? Literally, like, hey, but like, I don't even see what it says on it, but yeah.
Brand. People identified with it. They saw it as being at the forefront of the climate crisis, and now people are driving around with stickers in their cars saying, "I bought this before we knew Elon was crazy."
And
ouch, ouch. This isn't fucking some like accidental drop he's doing on the news. This isn't even supposed to be necessarily carried. This is a Qatar Economic Forum. This is for that room of people. Like, yes, it's being broadcast, but she's asking on behalf of big investors in that room. I love her and I want to have her babies.
There are also people who are buying it because Elon's crazy or...
Nope. No, they're not. No. There's like 13 maggots who bought these stupid fucking things and wrapped them with pictures of Trump getting shot. That's it. That's not going to statistically show up in your quarterly sales, dum-dum.
However they may view it. So, yes, we've lost some sales perhaps on the left, but we've gained them on the right.
Yeah, he's turned the right into big all electric car buyers. Oh, yeah. That's why they're doing ads for the Cybertruck that looks like the F-150.
The sales numbers at this point are strong.
Compared to what? Go-karts? What do you mean?
We see no problem with demand.
So what do you...
I mean, you can just look at the stock price.
No, you can't just look at the stock price. People are buying the stock because they think on a bigger scale because they think they can suck up to Trump that way. I'm a big Tesla buyer. I'm a big Tesla holder. And that he'll, because they own a lot of it, invite them to shit with the fucking president. That's why they're doing it. It is a secondary bribe scheme. The other part of it is it's a fucking meme stock that like nerds everywhere had bought into for a very long time, and they don't want it to ever go down. It's fucking stupid. It's nowhere near its price to earnings. They're counting on it is the best example currently of the greater fool theory.
If you want the best inside information, the stock market analysts have that, and our stock wouldn't be trading near all-time highs if it was not if things weren't in good shape. They're fine.
Yes, they would, because the P&Es don't justify it at all. Their debt doesn't justify it at all. The future sales don't justify it. None of that makes any fucking sense. And nobody, by the way, who's investing in that is going to put more into the stock. In many ways, they're just looking at how long this bullshit floats, if they should sell now.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. I was citing sales figures rather than share price. Well, tell me then how committed you are to Tesla. Do you see yourself, and are you committed to still being the chief executive of Tesla in...
Yeah, the problem is, if he is that good for the stock? Or if he isn't, is that better for the stock?
5 years' time?
Yes.
No doubt about that at all.
Did you sell your shares in Tesla? I don't have any shares in Tesla. I used to a long time ago. I got rid of them well before he became an asshole.
Well, no, I might die.
Okay, short of that.
I can never see if I'm dead, so there's a slight amount of...
Does that mean that the value of your pay doesn't have any bearing on your decision?
Well, that's not really a subject of discussion in this forum. I think obviously there should be compensation for, if something incredible is done, that compensation should match that something incredible was done. But I'm
gibberish.
That whatever some activist posing as a judge in Delaware happens to do will not affect the future compensation.
This is the judge who twice struck down the $56 billion pay package that was awarded to you. I think the value on the current value of stock options. Yeah.
Not a judge. The activist who is cosplaying a judge in a Halloween costume.
Okay, that's your characterization. I think
yes.
On the current value of stock options, I think the actual
justice according to the law.
On the current value of stock options, I think the value of that pay package stands at about $100 billion. Are you saying you are relaxed about the value of your future pay package? Your decision to be committed to Tesla for the next 5 years, as long as you are still with us on this planet, is completely independent of pay?
No.
Okay, so they could fire him, is what he's saying, if they don't want to pay him anymore. So he needs $100 billion over the course of 3 years minimum, or he'll quit.
It's not independent. So pay is a relevant factor then to your commitment to Tesla.
It's sufficient.
Well, yeah, he's leveraged out the ass on Twitter. He leveraged it against the stock itself, which if he starts selling it will dive. If all the people who leveraged the stock with him at Twitter or at Tesla to buy Twitter, if he starts selling a bunch of Tesla stock to cover his ass, then the stock price will cadaver, and then they'll be left holding the bag because he'll know when to sell before they do. He'll start selling, and then they'll play catch up, so he'll make more money on the sale than they will, and they're the ones that helped him buy Twitter.
Control such that I cannot be ousted by activist investors is what matters to me. And I've said this
Activist investors. You mean the majority stakeholders?
many times. But let's not have this whole thing be a discussion of my alleged pay. It's not a money thing. It's a reasonable control thing over the future of the company, especially if we're building millions, potentially billions of humanoid robots. I can't be sitting there and one day get tossed out by, for political reasons, by activists. That would be unacceptable. That's all that matters. Now let's move.
Well, if you do get tossed out by activist investors, who gives a shit? Of course you'll think it's unfortunate. Who wouldn't in that situation? And also, there won't be anything you can do about it.
Okay, well, just one question.
Let's move on.
Well, one question before we move on to other companies, which is that I wonder if some of what has happened to Tesla in the last few months, did you take it personally?
Yes.
And did it make you regret or think twice about your political endeavors?
That's a yes.
Because it is.
I did what needed to be done. The violent antibody reaction, and I'm not someone who's ever committed violence.
The violent antibody reaction, meaning that you're a disease in this analogy? Okay, all right, okay, we'll go with you on that one.
Yet, massive violence was committed against my companies. Massive violence was threatened against me. Who are these people? Why would they do that?
I think because they viewed you as aligned with fascism and having illegal access to the personal data of every American, and that you were siphoning it off at the time, and you were using your position and proximity to the president as a way of guaranteeing market share to your companies and the like, and some of these assholes reacted violently to it. I think the rest of it, though, the vast majority of it, are just people who are like, fuck off, I'm not buying your car, and I might have, but I'm not going to now. Which is, by the way, the majority of it. Let's be abundantly clear. In terms of like the fires and stuff, which you guys know I'm against. Zero political violence. But in that process, those were all insured. The people individually had insurance. The dealerships or the places they were parked, in the case of the one near my place that was a repair shop, that was insured as well. So people, they were covered in that. So it wasn't, I don't think necessarily that it's good that your insurance premiums might have to go up if your boss continues to give Nazi salutes. Might be part of the issue that you're running into, but the rest of it, the vast majority of the quote unquote damage that's been done is people going, fuck this guy, I'm not buying his car.
How wrong can they be? They're on the wrong side of history, and that's.
Are we though?
A thing to do. To go and damage some poor innocent person's car, to threaten to kill me? What's wrong with these people?
Well, I don't know. I'm not one of those people, so you'll have to ask them. But as a duly designated representative for all the people who are like, fuck you, dude, I think, again, you can play victim all you want, but the reality is the long-term damage is the loss in market share from your behavior, and you just got to eat it. If you think you're going to make it up with maggots, and you think maggots and trolls that support Donald Trump are all going to backfill in and start buying electric cars now because the boohoo Elon Musk's millions and billions, I think most people, including this lady and everybody at this gathering, is going, I don't think they can see it happening. I think they're calling bullshit.
I've not harmed anyone.
I've not harmed anyone. Well, you cut Alzheimer's funding, dude. Yeah, you have. And again, for all we know, you put a virus in the American Treasury or downloaded, illegally all the stuff in there under cover of night. So yeah, you have. You cut Ebola funding, for fuck's sake.
So something needs to be done about them. And a number of them are going to prison.
Yeah, that's what happens when you set a fire. Not my point, not her point.
They deserve it.
Okay, that's 12 people. Now, everybody else who hates you, explain how you're going to turn that around. Because that's what, let me be abundantly clear. One of the things that and this is one of the many reasons why I'm against political violence, is because it allows the person that's on the receiving end who absolutely does not deserve victim status to co-opt victim status and use it and use it as a distraction away from the actual criticism and the reality. Okay? So in his case, what she's asking is on behalf of all these investors and other people, she is specifically asking like, hey, is there investment secure in this company? Is there a future for car sales in this company? Because you seem to be telling the base consumer of your product to go fuck themselves, and you are using like an incredibly unpopular political lever as Donald Trump to do that. You are crowbarring your way into power using somebody who your consumer base, specifically for electric cars, fucking hates that guy. And you're never going to make up the slack. That's what she's asking you. It's not her fucking part. And what happens when people set fires and do all that kind of shit is this asshole gets to hide behind, I was attacked, and never have to answer the question. Like, the deeper question was, what the fuck are you going to do now that you have alienated all of your consumers? What's your company look like 5 years from now? Because these people are not coming back. And he gets to sidestep that question because of a bunch of like reports on Fox News.
Well,
You're referring to the attacks on Tesla showrooms, but I think
firing bullets into showrooms and burning down cars is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Those people will go to prison, and the people.
By the way, you don't burn down cars, you set them on fire. A building is burned down. I'm just saying it's kind of important. Trump always talks about people blowing up ships, or shooting down ships. He says that's the weird part. Shooting down ships. You sink ships by shooting. It's weird. It's just weird. Like, I keep thinking these guys are insects wearing human skin.
Funded them and organized them will also go to prison.
Cool. What happens if there were just individuals being assholes? Can we until you have proof that it was a big coordinated effort, how about fuck you, answer her question about the rest of the people at the protests, the people who did no violence. They're your biggest concern. The people standing outside of Tesla dealerships or giving the finger to them as they go by or whatever, that's your fucking problem. Not 9 or 12 people who would set fire to anything because if they think they can show off or align with their goals. They are not the essence of the problem for the business. The essence of the problem is you. And the fact that everybody who used to want to buy your car now thinks you're a fucking asshole.
Don't worry.
But wouldn't you?
We're coming for you.
Wouldn't you?
I didn't realize they were in Qatar.
But wouldn't you acknowledge that some of the people who turned against Tesla in Europe were upset at your politics, and very few of them.
The huge majority of them, and that's not gonna change.
Have been violent in any way. They just objected to what they saw.
to your personality, your political beliefs, your ideology, your Nazi adjacent, Mein Kampf friendly horseshit.
You say or do politically?
Well, it's certainly fine to object to political things, but it's not
Oh, that's sweet.
not fine to resort to violence and hanging.
Yeah, she knows that. That's the point she was making. Like, yeah, okay, yes, we know that part. How do you answer to the people who aren't hanging you in effigy or setting fire to things? Like 98% of the people who are never going to buy a Tesla.
In effigy and death threats. That's obviously not okay.
Obviously. So stop bringing it up, you fucking weakling.
That's absurd.
Yes, it's wrong and absurd and bad. And answer her fucking question.
That is in no way justifiable at all.
Yes, we know this as well. God damn it, dude. Answer her question.
In any way, shape, or form. And some of the legacy media nonetheless have sought to justify it, which is unconscionable.
No, they have not. They're not justifying it. They're asking you, like, okay, we agree that's wrong. What are you going to do about the rest of it, dum-dum? And you keep going back to that and laying that off on them. God
Shame on
damn.
them.
Let's talk about your other...
Notice he did not answer the question, which is, how are you going to win back over the clients and the customers you have alienated? And his answer was, who cares?
Companies then in other business areas, SpaceX. I saw that you said in a speech at the West Point Military Academy recently that the future of warfare is AI and drones. And obviously defense is an increasingly booming sector with the state.
Yeah, oh yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
The world at the moment. Do you see SpaceX moving into weaponized drones?
You certainly ask interesting questions.
You certainly give boring, repetitive, bullshit, flabby answers.
That are impossible to answer. SpaceX is it's the space launch leader. So SpaceX doesn't do drones. SpaceX builds rockets, satellites, and internet terminals. So SpaceX has a very dominant position in space launch. So of the mass launch to orbit this year, SpaceX will probably do 90%. China will do the remaining.
By the way, 90% because he's including all of the Starlink satellites they drop into low Earth orbit, which goes up as high as the Blue Origin shit, and not the big heavy lifting.
Half.
Because that's how like satellite and commercial launches work these days. It's fucking 2025.
The remaining amount, so 5%, and the rest of the world, including the rest of the US, will do about 5%. So SpaceX will do about 10 times as much as the rest of the world combined, or 20 times as much as China, and China is doing actually a very impressive job. The reason for this is that we're putting into orbit the largest satellite constellation the world has ever seen by far. So I think at this point, about maybe approaching 80% of all active satellites in orbit are SpaceX. And they're providing global high.
Yeah, but they're also low Earth orbit ones, communication satellites, and they're in a decaying orbit. They fall out of the sky. Five Starlink satellites fall out of the sky every single day.
Connectivity.
They had to change the composition of the satellites because the aluminum in the original model was destroying the ozone layer. That in their decaying, like these fucking toilet paper satellites he is throwing up in the sky that eventually fall, like they're like those little things that in Twister that they drove out in the truck and had spin up into that. They all come down later. That's the design. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's not everything. And stop talking about it like it is. And ultimately, they all burn up and re-enter, and they had to literally they had to redesign them because the waste from them was actually punching a hole in the ozone layer.
Throughout the world. In fact, this connection is on a SpaceX connection. So
I don't know if I'd brag about that.
I think this is a very good thing. because it means that we can provide low-cost, high-bandwidth internet to parts of the world that don't have it, or it's very expensive. And I think the single biggest thing you can do to lift people out of poverty and help them is giving them an internet connection. Because once you have the internet connection, you can learn anything for free on the internet. And
you can also learn anything about those people if you control that satellite system. So the impoverished developing countries, you can get first like dibs on all of their private information, all their web searches, all that stuff, all the stuff that Google is paid handsomely for. If you own the actual satellites, you can have access to their stuff beforehand. And if the U.S. government subsidizes, which is what's happening in this case, the U.S. government subsidizes the putting those things in orbit, they're effectively subsidizing your private business model that you put in place to basically steal information from the developing world to monetize that consumer base before other people do, on the back of the U.S. taxpayer.
Sell your goods and services to the global market. Once you have knowledge by the internet and the ability to engage in commerce, that this is going to greatly improve quality of life for people throughout the world, and it has.
Yeah, his goal is to get eBay accounts for everybody in the third world.
And I'd just like to thank anyone in the audience who may have been helpful in, with Starlink and getting it to approved in their country. And I think it's doing a lot of good on the countries that have approved it, which is, I think at this point, 130 countries are very happy with it. I don't...
Yeah, Ukraine's not one of them because you keep shutting it off. And again, how long do you think this is going to last before he shuts it off for some other countries because it benefits him financially or politically? Then where does that business model go? Like, his politics have basically fucked up Tesla, and we're on a trajectory where his politics will fuck up Starlink as well.
SpaceX getting into the weapons business, that's certainly, it's not an aspiration. We're frequently asked to do weapons programs, but we have thus far declined.
Do you envisage SpaceX or indeed Starlink as a separate entity publicly listing in the near future or at all?
It's possible that Starlink may go public at some point in the future.
And what would be the time frame?
Starlink.
What kind of time frame are you considering?
I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush to go public.
By the way, the delay in this and the kind of sonic overlap where it's hard for him to hear her and her to hear him when both of them are talking, is why I would have not mentioned it was a Starlink hookup at the beginning of this. Public is, I guess, a way to potentially make more money, but at the expense of a lot of public company overhead and inevitably scrutiny. That's the word he's looking for. Scrutiny. What they're trying to avoid, what he wants to avoid, is scrutiny. He does not want people looking into the books, looking into, like, if a Starlink is private, they only have to say so much. But once they go public, a lot more of their information, the proprietary plans for the company and stuff, those become public.
A whole bunch of lawsuits, which are very annoying. So really something needs to be done about the shareholder derivative lawsuits in the U.S. Because it allows plaintiffs' law firms who don't represent the shareholders to pretend that they represent the shareholders by getting a puppet plaintiff with a few shares to initiate a
So they do have a shareholder that they represent.
Lawsuit against the company. And the irony being that, extreme irony, that even if the class they purport to represent were to vote that they don't want the lawsuit would still continue. So how can it be a class action representing a class if the class vote against it?
Well, okay. So let's say Nokia investors versus Nokia customers. And then you've got a crisscross of the two. Somebody has Nokia stock, but they also buy the product. And then the product fails and they sue the company over the release of the product from the point of view of being a shareholder, because not only was it damaging people by the battery blowing up in their pocket, but also it was diminishing the returns on their stock price because it was poorly run. Now, the vast majority of the stakeholders might not want that because they're very happy with hiding the flaw that caused the battery to explode, for example. They don't want to damage their investment. So the majority of them, perhaps, even a slim majority of one vote or whatever, decides that they don't want this, a class action lawsuit on behalf of shareholders to go forward. That doesn't mean that the minority still can't sue because they're not okay with their losses. If that's simple enough for this dipshit.
That's the bizarre situation we've got in the U.S. It's a dire need of reform. As anyone who's running a public company, you've experienced this. It's an absurd situation that needs to change.
Well, do you think Donald Trump might change it? You've certainly got his ear. I imagine that you've put this to him. Is this something you're trying to change before any Starlink IPO?
Well, it would need a...
By the way, this is what you would call tort reform in the old days. Whenever you heard Republicans in the 90s especially talking about tort reform, what they meant was people, class action lawsuits, but also individuals being able to sue companies. They were trying to tighten the standards for what that would mean, so it was almost impossible for anybody to sue a corporation. You know how we are with like gun manufacturers? Hey, oh, by the way, it's thanks for bringing this up, dipshit. Let's see. Was it California? Guns that go off by themselves. Is this Sig Sauer? Yeah. Let's see. Sig Sauer gun. Sorry. I think it was the Sig Sauers, I want to say. Yeah. There was a story of, Sig Sauer. Yeah, P3320. Yeah. So, you know how everybody's like, you can't sue why shouldn't you be able to sue a gun manufacturer, right? Yeah, thank you. That is, well, one of the reasons why they pushed back on this was this particular, the P350, or sorry, 320, sorry, 320, 350, whatever works. Yeah, a lot of police departments got these things, and they had basically a hair trigger. Almost figuratively, but very close to literally. It was such a light trigger that it could go off just by pulling it, just removing it from your holster. So several police officers had been both wounded themselves when drawing their firearm, and other people who were, that they were holding their gun on for any particular reason ended up dead because they didn't mean to fully fire, but they were in a ready position, and the gun basically, like, all you had to do was tap the fucking thing, and if you're moving around, that was enough to fucking have you kill somebody. And these things were like all these here you go. One warm afternoon, Dwight Jackson was getting dressed for a visit to his favorite cigar lounge. He slipped his holstered Sig Sauer P320 into his belt, put a button down on his shirt, and leaned across his bed for his wallet. Suddenly said the gun fired, sending a bullet tearing through his right buttock and into his left ankle. I heard a bang. I looked down and saw blood. His wife heard the shot. At no point, Jackson later told her, had he touched the gun's trigger. 320 is one of the most popular handguns, but it was this variation, whoever was making the fucking thing, or the generation, this particular generation, whenever they were made, and so police departments at one point had these at the height of like innocent people being shot by the cops who didn't deserve it, right? Okay, a bunch of those were because of the P320. How do you like that? Yeah, people are stomping around yelling racism when ultimately it was Sig Sauer's problem. The person who was holding the gun did not mean to kill the person. They did not mean to pull the trigger. And yes, it is, Karate Joe. Yeah, it is. There are dozens of accounts of this. The LA Police Department, I think, at least 33 officers and 18 law enforcement agencies have been injured by P320 discharges, according to court records and interviews. 6 agencies removed the P320 from service over concerns for the model's safety, records show. Yeah. both injuries to the person wielding the gun and the person carrying it. And also, so guns do kill people. That's exactly right, Lux. And also, there were situations where there was there's this pretty well-known shot of this female police officer removing this one guy's gun from a holster. They pulled him over. Guy's wearing a gun, a sidearm, and they have his hands on the thing, and she's pulling the gun out, and it discharges and basically blows a hole in his leg. And like she, of course, right wing went crazy with this video, going, women shouldn't be cops and blah blah blah. Right? That was their big thing. Women shouldn't be. They said it about women who were in Trump's Secret Service detail, and they said it about this woman. Well, it turns out it was a P-320. She's pulling the guy's gun out. There's no evidence that she touched the fucking trigger or put her finger in the actual trigger guard. She just lifted it up. You can see her do it. It just goes pop like that as she's doing this. So anyways, point being is you should be able to sue gun companies is my point. But also one of the reasons the right wing pushed back is because that could have basically leveled the NRA donations for that year of 6 Hour. They wouldn't have had any money to pour into that. So you can't have that, right?
To be passed. But the trouble being that you need 60 Senate votes, and the Democrats will vote against it.
Against it. The Democrats will vote against it. You're right. Democrats are going to look back at like tobacco companies and asbestos and all the laws about any kind of toxic pollutant where the what's her name, Erin Brockovich went through and go, yeah, we're gonna keep the rules on class action pretty robust.
The plaintiff's bar is, I believe, the second largest.
Remington makes a 6 Hour. Is that the model number? Okay. I don't.
To the Democratic Party.
Shut the fuck up. I don't have one, nor am I going to. So I need not go any deeper in my information about that. And again, it's obviously and clearly the reality. Again, 33 officers, 18 law enforcement agencies that bought a shit ton of these things, turned them over, stopped using them. Right? I love guns, but safety, safety, safety. Agree. Yep. And that's the thing, Surrender Monkey. The issue that you have in this circumstance is people can be as safe as they want, but if the product is faulty, they should be able to sue over it. So.
That's the issue. At the state level, this can be solved. And I should say, Texas recently passed a law which, at least the state level, made lawsuits much more reasonable because you have to get.
Yeah, sorry, we missed some of that because of Starlink.
1 in 33 shareholders to agree that they are part of a class of shareholders. 3%. Okay. This will really help with frivolous lawsuits.
Okay. Let's talk about AI, which is in so many of your businesses and in all our worlds in different ways. It's one of the big changes, the development of generative AI, since you last spoke to this forum 3 years ago. You're in this space, of course, with Grok, which almost everyone will know. You co-founded OpenAI and then left, and you've obviously got a legal battle with OpenAI and Sam Altman. I wonder if you could say something about the status of that, because you were together.
I'll tell you the status of it. By the way, we don't need to watch the rest of it. It's just the same kind of rambly, bitter bullshit. Let me explain to you what actually occurred in this circumstance. So OpenAI is where all this stuff was hatched, essentially. OpenAI was really at the cutting edge of ChatGPT and the large language models that could functionally be used in the way that we're all getting used to using them, which is using natural language to request things from a processor that it does on your behalf. Okay. And OpenAI was supposed to be open and basically nonprofit, and they would not take it profit and therefore be a competitor to anybody who was a for-profit AI company. And then this asshole left, stormed out the door, and magically started his own AI company that is for profit. And he built it on top of the large language model studies and the information from OpenAI. And now he wants to make sure that OpenAI, because they're still cutting edge, he doesn't want to have to compete with them for profit. So if they remain kind of open and they can never like go for, you know, a profit-making endeavor beyond a certain window of just making sure they're in a developmental window, which is still fucking enormous. He doesn't want to compete with them. This is why he called for a moratorium, a pause on AI, because it's unsafe. He wanted that because he needed to catch up with everybody else. Everybody was ahead of him. And so he was like, we need a pause. And while that pause would go on, he intended to keep working. You know how we know? Because that's exactly what he fucking did. He doesn't want OpenAI to be a for-profit company to go like fully public because he can't take the competition. He's trying to guarantee himself a guaranteed market share.
Saudi Arabia with the president last week with Sam Altman. In the same place at the same time.
Sam was in the neighborhood.
Okay, so does that mean you are pushing ahead with the lawsuit against OpenAI?
Yes. So look, I came up with the name OpenAI as an open source and as a nonprofit, and I funded OpenAI for the first roughly $50 million, and it was intended to be a nonprofit open source company, and now they're trying to change that for their own financial benefit.
Right, because what they were working on when you were there isn't anything like what they actually did with Sam. Anyways, point being, that's exactly right. He doesn't want to have to compete with that. That's the end of it. And it's still and it might be that he dropped his stake. And what he really wants is he left, took his money with him, and then he wanted a better, you know, if he'd have kept staking, it would have been like buying Google at $20 a share or some shit like that. And now he's pissed that he split. So he's trying to sue for them to not be able to do it. Then he'll buy a bunch of then he'll put a big stake in like, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. Here's some money. And then he'll go, you know what, we should take this public so that his investment is worth more. But he doesn't have enough of an investment in it. So, all right, let me, by the way, hi chat room, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc.